Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Mortgage Message Show. My name is LaGiglia, and today I'm joined with my guest, Dee Stahl of Keller Williams Infinity here in Plainfield to talk about who is buying in the spring of 2021. Dee, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate your time and I appreciate the opportunity to just talk with you and your audience. It's amazing.
Well, we appreciate you, and I appreciate you as a partner within our joint businesses of mortgage and real estate, and so excited to be able to highlight you for our audience today. As I was mentioning before the interview, for those who don't already know you, since so many do within the community. But Dee, we're talking about who's buying in the spring of 2021, getting ready to somehow complement this incredible year of real estate that the year of 2020 was. And I wanted to talk today to the audience about the downsized buyer. But before I get into that, I'd love the audience to kind of hear from you just a little bit about your story as far as how you got into real estate and what it's meant to you the last couple of years.
Yeah, I'm a helper, right? So I really believe in leverage. That's just what I've always been about that. So I've been in sales for 24 years. I did motive power, and then there was a shift in our life. Everybody has them, right? And you become resilient. And one of the resilient things that I wanted to do was still give back to the community, still be a leverage for families, and the personal experience that I went through was that I saw somebody very close to me lose their home because of circumstances that were completely out of their control, right? And it didn't come right away. It came after a while. And I was like, really, how can I put myself out there for people? And I thought, man, wouldn't it be amazing if I can help families after what I've seen my family go through, which was losing a home, right? So I decided to get into real estate. I wanted to do real estate when I was about 26 years old before I even started in sales, and it just didn't pan out. And, the powers that be, they take charge, right? So I'm living a dream. I
It's so
really
great.
am living a dream.
It's so great. And it brings a smile to my face. And I know it does to the audience as well, because there's such a genuineness behind the why. And that's just who I love to be associated with. I love to be partnered with, someone that brings that light into this world. I think you said before the interview, you said, Joe, look behind me. When life brings you lemons, you make lemonade.
That's right.
And I wanted to make sure I didn't miss that. And Dee, it's been incredible working with you and watching you carry out that mission of your why within each and every single client that comes your way. And today, I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about what I feel to be, and what I know you feel to be, a very significant segment of the market, which is what we call downsized buyers. And I guess before we get into this interview, I'd love for you to kind of just share from a definition standpoint, what is a downsized buyer?
So a downsized buyer can really be anything, right? It can be people that their children have gone off to college and they're in college in other states, right? But they still might have children at home with them. And it's just too much. It's too much for everybody to take care of. So they're talking about downsizing. Then you have your downsized buyers that said, hey, listen, my kids are out and I don't want them back. Get me a smaller door, right? So we work with there's so many different things about downsizing. And it's not even downsizing locally, like downsizing nationally, right? So it's cool to be able to take people who start that small little conversation, plant the seed about, hey, we're thinking about downsizing. What do we do? Because there's a lot of key components that go to that statement, which is, what about capital gains? Where do we go? Do we have a mortgage? Do we not have a mortgage? So there's just a lot with it. So it's exercising your muscles along with theirs when they start talking about, hey, I want to downsize.
So good, so good. So I know, specifically, you and I were involved in quite a few transactions this past year, specific to the downsized client. But within your own real estate practice, what would you say, maybe from a percentage basis? I know I'm putting you on the hook here, but maybe from a percentage basis, what would you say the amount of clients you've dealt with that turn out to be downsized buyers, approximately?
Oh, that's an easy number for me because I really watch my numbers and I see what my clientele is. And I'm about 15 to 18% of my clients right now
That's great.
downsizers. Mm-hmm.
I love that. I love that. And that type of experience, There's so much to say as far as what that experience can bring to your marketplace of having that type of market share of downsized buyers. And in your experience, what would you say is one of the key components of navigating a downsized buyer?
Really, it's sitting down and getting their non-negotiables. What is their dream? The very first thing I say to them is, I want you to paint me a picture, because maybe I might know them, maybe I don't know them, but I really want to develop a story. I want to develop a journey for them, because it's not a transaction for me. They have this idea that we need to downsize. We don't need to have these electric bills. We don't need 2,400 square feet. We need 18, or we need 1,000, whatever it is that fits their wheelhouse. So I break it apart and I tell them right in the very beginning, I'm going to ask you a lot of questions, because my end result is going to be your dream. What is it that you want? So we go through a list of things, Joe. It's not just a one in, a one off. It's a lot.
That's great. That's great. And certainly I've seen that in action. So Dee, when you think about this incredible year that we just overcame, and it was a very interesting year to say the least, but specific to real estate, we definitely saw a demand within our marketplace, and we believe that demand to exist throughout the rest of this year in 2021. Certainly from a mortgage professional's perspective, we see the interest rate market to be able to remain low at least throughout this year as well. Dee, when someone is considering downsizing, what are some of the challenges that since you've been down this road and they haven't, so to speak, what are some of the challenges that they can expect to try to overcome or to be aware of as they attempt to do this process?
That is such a great question. I'll tell you why. What am I going to do with all my stuff? Right? I hear that so much, because not only do they have their stuff, but they have their stuff from maybe their families, and you know what I'm saying, like all their keepsakes and everything that they started to slowly bring into this house, and now they have to quickly bring it out of the house, right? So it's processes like that, and us having the interest rates that we're having right now. I mean, that's just a full swing. That's giving the people the opportunity to say, why not, instead of why, right?
I love it. I love it. I know a big one, a big question that comes up. I think you and I have probably been on a few calls together and heard the same question, but a big question that comes up in the downsizing client is, Dee, what happens if we sell this house and we haven't found the house we're moving to? What happens? Can we sell before we buy? Are we stuck in limbo? What do we do, Dee?
Yeah. And that's a great question, because I've actually had that 3 times this year.
Right. I know you have. Yes.
I've had that 3 times this year, and it is very dicey. I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. You really have to have a plan in place, and you have to really be proactive enough to say, hey, listen, if we have a gap to close, and it means that you are not going to be able to get into 123 Main Street until 2 more weeks later, do we have a place for you to call home for that staycation for 2 or 3 weeks? Now, we did this during COVID too. And I had a family that was displaced, and it was during the summer when the kids were on, well, they were off school anyway, but it does happen. So those are the important keys. Those are the elements to this puzzle that we need to make sure we address. Do you have an exit plan? Do we have an exit plan? And I bring that to the table and say, listen, if we get an offer tonight on your home, where are you going tomorrow morning at 8 a.m.? So we had that conversation, whether it's a stay place or a family or a friend, because I want them to know that that will happen. You know that as well as I do. We don't have a lot of inventory out there, right? So what did we do? We were selling before we were actually getting somebody to move into something smaller, right?
Yeah,
To downsize. So
absolutely.
it's a puzzle. It is a puzzle.
You brought something up earlier in the interview that I thought was very significant, and I wanted to bring it back up again because I think it relates to a lot of what's happening, at least in our marketplace. There's a large segment of the market which, your comment about 15% downsizing, I only see that growing. The numbers don't lie. we have baby boomers that are retiring at a record rate. We have baby boomers, to your point, that are having the kids, finally move out, so to speak. And we have this whole generation that is, finally in a position to be able to kind of maybe make it about them, you know,
Mhm.
make it about the patriarch and the matriarch, God willing, of the family. Make it about them, of where do you guys want to go? What do you guys want to do now? You raised a family, you did it well, and now it's about you guys, so to speak. And I think something you brought up early in the interview, which I'm seeing in my business, is that good, bad, or indifferent, people are selling in Illinois and moving out of state.
Yeah.
And I would be remiss if I didn't bring it up. As much as we love our state of Illinois, my question to you is, Dee, is can someone who's downsizing in that type of environment, how would that client work with you?
So that's a great question. I love that question. And that is, why do I love that question? Because we have the ability today to take folks from the state of Illinois to the other states in our nation. And it's very simple. Being that Keller Williams is nationally and internationally, we have that ability. So just for safety's sake, I'm using some numbers because I actually got to shuttle some people around, right? I had 609 agents to choose from
Wow.
out of one small area in Nevada. Okay. Yes, sir.
Wow.
So I had that ability because I know them, because I'm in partnership with them, because I have transferred people to Nevada, or I have, transferred people to Florida. That's one of the most awesomest things. And why is that so important? Because of our standards. We have here at Keller Williams has standards here that you will find in every other state throughout the United States.
I think
So
that's
you're not skipping a beat. We're doing everything systems, and models and systems.
I'm so glad you shared that. And I, it really wasn't a softball question. That's an incredible answer that I hope people really resonate with, and why they should be connected to you, Dee. And I think it's just it's a great opportunity to know that there's going to be a consistency within the service level, which is fantastic. Dee, again, coming off of a record 2020, knowing that 2021 is going to be the same feverish pace. Dee, I think there's probably a lot of audience members who are watching right now actually asking the question, am I a downsized buyer?
Mhm.
And I think that there's a lot of answers that you help them find on their own to be able to make that determination. So Dee, if you can, just give me an idea, give the audience member an idea. The audience member who's watching right now really enjoys the conversation here and wants to take it to the next step, no pun intended. Dee, help me out. And what does that process look like if someone sits down with you and says, Dee, let's have a conversation? Just walk me through that if you can.
Yeah, so Mr. and Mrs. Customer, Mr. whatever customer, it doesn't matter to me as far as the clientele. Once again, it's the story. Tell me where you want to be. What does that look like? Take me on that. Help me understand, paint the picture for me. So here, for instance, I have a downsizer and I ask these questions. Where do you want to be and how soon do you want to be there, right? And then we start breaking it down. What's so important? What are your non-negotiables? What are your negotiables? Because not everything is 100%. We don't mirror match. We try to, but we do the best that we can. And that's by asking all the questions, right? So take a look at what you have right now. You're thinking to yourself, are we ready to downsize? My bones can't stand the Illinois winter. I need to get somewhere warmer. And then we sit down and say, well, where is it that you want to be? Because I'm sure your family's going to want to come and see you. I'm sure you're going to want to come back to Illinois to visit your family. Do you have family? What matters to you most? And then that's really just hitting the egg, cracking it open, and then making it whatever you want, right? So
I love it.
that's how we do that.
I love it, Dee. I love it. And thank you for that. Thank you for inspiring, no doubt, an audience member to reach out and to have that process unfold for them. Dee, if someone is watching and they would love to work with you and talk with you, what's the best way that I can have somebody reach out and get connected with you, Dee?
Yeah, I mean, multiple ways. You can definitely call me. My number is 630-768-8390. You can send me an email at the letter D, next step at kw.com. You can also just visit my webpage. It's kw.com. And there's an inquiry form in there. You can direct message me on Facebook. My Facebook page is Next Step Team at Keller Williams. So yeah, reach out to me. I would love to inform or help anybody that I can, because it's doable. At the end of the day, it's doable. It's just a matter of getting it done.
I love it. I love it. And if you're on Facebook right now, which we know you are, if you're watching this interview, go over and like Dee's Facebook page over at Next Step Realty Team. Dee, it is just always an honor to talk with you. I'm always inspired when I leave a conversation with you. I so appreciate just how you service my clients and how just you continue to impact our community. So thank you so much. And to our audience, thank you as always for taking the time to tune in. We know that this information can help you, your family, your networks. We hope you share, you like it, and any questions, please drop in the comments. We'll make sure to answer. We can't wait to see you next week. This is Joe LaGiglia with the Mortgage Message Show saying thanks so much for being a part of this movement. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.